Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're going to be talking about top 5 commanders you can build for under $25. Some commanders are just kind of built differently. They care less about what you've got or exactly what you've got, and you can kind of build them up based off of your bulk, based off of, some very, very cheap singles and stuff. These are easily very budget friendly, and as I said, your bulk that's sitting around can easily go towards these decks. Now, while they may not be CEDH level, bracket 5, they can easily pump out some bracket 2, even 3, maybe even bordering on level 4 decks, depending on which one of these kinds you go to build. Some are going to be a little bit more difficult to keep under that $25, but even then you can kind of go a bit above it if you want to kind of start edging up and, building the deck up if you do enjoy it later on. So starting out with Sergeant John Benton, he is probably the poster child for budget brews. He starts out as like a group hug-esque commander where you're swinging in, you're hitting someone for 2, and boom, now you're drawing 2 cards and they're drawing 2 cards. And then later in the game, you're swinging in for 40 and you're just wiping people out with it. He makes use of bulk auras, equipment, combat tricks, etc. He's going to make use of all kinds of bulk there. Anything that's cheap and, is very cheap mana wise is going to just be huge for him. So stuff like Invigorate, where if you control a forest, you get to give someone 3 life to cast it for free, is huge. We've got Lightfoot Technique, giving him flying and indestructible until end of turn. He is going to get targeted down. People are going to want to destroy him. This is a way to kind of counteract that. Most decks will have a bunch of ways to give him hexproof, indestructible, etc., and then make it so that he's unblockable. We've got, you just add in some mana dorks in here too, stuff like Arboreal Graze that gets you lands as well, Arbor Elf to untap your forest. We've got Imperial Armor and Lion Umbra, huge enchants that you can chuck onto him to make him very big. Wild Defiance and Indomitable Might, both cards that don't get a huge amount of use but are insane in this deck. Wild Defiance making it so that each time you do that instant and sorcery, it's going to give him a huge buff because it gets the original buff plus the buff from this. And then Indomitable Might here giving him +3/+3, and then you can also make it so that he's not blocked, right? You essentially get to assign that combat damage as if he wasn't blocked. So people are less likely to kind of block him unless they're going to be able to kill him because you can just bypass through it. Next up, we've got Kalaria the Vast. She is a very fast and very brutal commander. She's going to be one that's a little bit harder to keep under $25, but you can do it. You can't exploit any of her crazy stuff that on a budget, like, the huge dragons and demons and angels that are just absolutely bonkers in Kalia lists, but you can still get plenty of really big things in here to abuse because she's going to make use of all those bulk angels, the demons, the dragons, any extra combat-y kind of stuff that you can get in there as well. If you can get it below budget, definitely go in there. We've got stuff like Aegis Angel here, just a big angel that's going to give your Kalia indestructible. We've got Vile Mutilator, stuff with like typical downsides like Vile Mutilator in here that makes it so you have to sacrifice a creature to bring them in. With Kalia, it just comes in. It's great. We've got Hellkite Charger. If you can get this in under your budget and get these mana going, boom, extra combats means extra Kalia procs there. Extra Kalia triggers. Rakdos makes it so that your creatures are going to cost less, kind of helps bypass the fact that you're going to have a huge amount of creatures that are very, very expensive in this deck because you're going to go with the bulk, dragons and stuff like that that are expensive. This allows you to kind of bypass expensive mana-wise. This allows you to bypass that. We've got stuff like Karmic Guide. We can get in, a little bit of stuff in here to be able to bring creatures back from our graveyard as well. Burial Rites as well. Faithless Looting to chuck stuff into the graveyard to kind of bring back with things too. We've got Windcrag Siege in here, which lets you get that additional Kalia trigger, which is huge. Scourge of the Throne for that extra combat here. That's only 50 cents, potentially extra combat every single turn you kind of go in and attack, which is great because, that's additional Kalias you're going to get off there. Now, if you guys are enjoying this content and everything like that, you can go over, support the channel, become a member, buy a game mat. There's a huge amount of ways to be able to support the channel. It would be really great. Our channel's not really big at the moment, but I'd love to make it big, and this kind of helps me push towards that. Next, we've got Captain Howler Sea Scourge. So this is best off built up with discarding one card at a time, whether it's looting and rummaging, that kind of thing. Easily can get huge damage off. I versed one. Huge shout out to Zane from my LGS here, who has a great Captain Howler list. And some of the things that he can pull off with it are just insane. That you got huge damage, huge card draw with him, especially if you can stack those triggers up on one creature. You make use of your bulk unblockable creatures, any looting and rummaging, as I said. If you've got stuff that got graveyard usage as well, like, flashback and stuff, it's good here. Any kind of silly discard synergies work great too. In fact, with the actual set, there came some in Aphidrift too. Shoreline Looter and Wonder, as I said about things being unblockable, Shoreline Looter is a way to, just get that unblockable hit in, as well as the fact that it does draw your card, discard a card. It does do it on combat damage, but the unblockable is what we're after here. The Wonder as well, so that way you've got flying on all your creatures. Inti and Boosted Sloop here are both ways to, be able to, when you attack, draw a card, discard a card, or just, discard a card with Inti. And then Inti's also going to make it so you get to get some card draw, some impulse draw there. We've got Ghostly Pilferer and Celifid Ink Shrouder. Both ways to be able to, at instant speed, discard cards. So you go in, you swing in, boom, now things are unblockable, and then you just discard your whole hand, give something plus 14, plus 0. It's also got 7 triggers on it to, when it deals damage, draw a card, so you get to draw 7 cards. It's crazy. We've also got Magmakin Artillerist and Marauding Mako, as I said, to kind of make use of those discards, whether it's, buffing up your creatures with the Marauding Mako buffing himself up, or Magmakin dealing damage out to each opponent. We've got Magnus the Red here. This is a very, very awesome Spellslinger commander. It can easily get very out of control, and all you need is creature tokens. And once those creature tokens start going, you can get them to just exponentially grow depending on what you're building. Personally, I built him as goblins, and it works really well, but any creature tokens work with him. It's just going to make use of your bulk creature token generators, bad X cost spells, so, a card that costs X that may not be great. It's going to be decent with Magnus, because Magnus is reducing the cost by, 10, 15, depending on how many creature tokens you got. Impact Tremor style effects work really great here, as well as just any generally considered bad instants and sorceries. There's one that I forgot to include in the slide here, which is Brass's Bounty, which is like pay 7, you create a treasure for each land you've got. In this, it's just pay red, boom, create treasures for each land. It's just crazy great. So stuff like Young Pyromancer and Talrand are easy ways to get some creature tokens out, but those are going to be one at a time, right? We want to get more out. We want stuff like Krenko. Boom. Create, 10 goblins with Krenko. That's reducing all your costs by 10. We've got Temp with Vengeance, an X cost spell in here. If you cast this for like, X is 20, right? Because you got 20 tokens out. Now it's, you're going to create 20 tokens. If anyone else takes the deal, again, it's going to do it. And then your X cost spells are just going to be insane from there. You could potentially draw your whole deck depending on what the X cost spell is. As for getting into like our finishers here, Ovika is a huge finisher because it's going to make it so that each time you cast a spell, boom, now you're creating exponential goblins, because you're going to create more goblins based off of that, as well as the fact they have haste, which is crazy. And then Finale of Revelation here is just draw a huge amount, shuffle your graveyard into your library, potentially draw X cards, untap 5 lands, and then have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Getting that off with a big Magnus board is really great. We've got stuff like this for your actual finishers. Jaya's Immolating Inferno. Because you deal X damage to 3 targets, oh look, you've got 3 opponents. Now it's like, however many creature tokens you've got, you pay 2 red, say you got 15 creature tokens out here, you pay that, and then it's just deal 15 damage to 3 targets. Boom, you just, one-shotting everyone. Comet Storm is very, very similar here as well. You do need to pay the multi-kicker here twice, because you got 1, and then you need to multi-kick to deal it to 3 people. So it is a little bit more expensive than Jaya's, but still, it's absolutely bonkers. Now, our last one here is Omnath, Locus of Rage. So this is huge landfall, and we're going for landfall benefits here. Lots of very, very obtainable ramp spells that you can put in here. Getting lots of mana means doing lots of things, as well as you could get these elementals each time a landfall happens, which you can use for just a huge amount of stuff. It's going to make use of any bulk ramp spells, any big mana spells, any elementals, or you can animate your lands as well. Once you've got like, heaps of lands out there, animate them, swing them in, go hit people, do whatever you want. So stuff like Jaheira's Respite and Nissa's Renewal, not necessarily good land spells, but in here they're not too bad. Jaheira's is going to allow you to prevent damage, is good, which is really good. Nissa's Renewal here, get 3 lands out, as well as you gain 7 life. It's quite expensive mana-wise. We've got extra mana because we're going to go into landfall, so we're going to get heaps of extra lands out. So it's not quite as bad. We've got Brushfire Elemental and Avenger of Zendikar. Talking about landfall here, Brushfire is going to get you a huge amount of buffs up here with your whenever lands enter. Avenger of Zendikar is going to build your board up, as well as, you know, also buff up all of your plants that you've got out. We've got World Soul's Rage here. Put extra lands out, as well as deal damage to any target. Great. Beanstalk Giant just has the power and toughness equal to the amount of lands you've got. Great. As well as the fact that it's got strapped onto it a additional landfall, like, you know, search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield. And then we've got like stuff like this to make use of those elementals here, where Ancients Tread, 99 cents, and it's going to make it so that each time one of those elementals comes in, we get to deal 5 damage to either a creature or a player. Boom, boom, boom. We got wiped someone out. Evolutionary Leap here. Sacrifice one of the elementals, pay green, sacrifice it, look for a creature, like real top until you find a creature, put it into your hand. It's a great way to make use of it, especially because you can do it at instant speed. Yeah. I would include Ashayas if you could manage it in your budget here as well. It's a great way to turn all of your creatures into land, and then it just goes kind of infinite because, right? Like, it would potentially go infinite with Omnath, I think, because that's crazy if it does. So I guess you'd have to have a way to stop that, because otherwise you're just going to create infinite creatures. Non-token. Oh, it's non-token, so you're fine. Either way, it turns all your creatures into lands, which is good because it just gets you a huge amount of additional creatures out there, which is great. Additional lands as well. But I'd love to hear from you guys as to what you think. Are you guys going to build any of these? Would you love to see me build any of them? I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.